People will, continue to join. I think we are on time, John. There are a few people who are already on LinkedIn as well who are watching us live. So first of all, thank you so much for taking time early in the morning and accepting my invite to join this wonderful concept that I actually floated about a couple of years back. One-on-one discussion, talking about key topics that are extremely crucial in CX, AI, data, as well as responsible business domain. Have had the privilege to host, a few leaders from companies like Google, SAP, Tata, a lot of other groups, right? I'm like, it's been phenomenal to have leaders on Coffee Chat with FiveS and talk about real business problems and what do they see as a potential solution for people who would want to, maybe find out some solution from the conversations that we have with our guests. So thank you so much for taking out time. Looking forward to a wonderful conversation, John. Without wasting much of time, why don't you quickly, give a quick introduction about yourself? You have done lots and lots of work in CX, outsourcing space. Why don't you talk more about it? And let's get started.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. And thank you everyone for joining. I see a bunch of names appearing, and I appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy days. You have a lot you could listen to. There's a lot of media out there to entertain you, and for you to tune in here, I appreciate it. So my name is John Walter. I work with ZMAXINC, which is, it was started 27 years ago. The founder owned a call center. He sold it and saw a need for companies that are looking to outsource to have a trusted advisor and helping them to make those decisions. And so for the past 27 years, our company has been exclusively focused on helping large brands to outsource human agent work. And I was outside legal counsel to the company for about 3 years. And then about a year ago, I joined internally. I'm currently the Chief Operating Officer. And over the past year, we have seen the importance of helping our clients who have previously been segregating the two different types of customer support, where you have self-help in one department and human agent support in a different department. We see that the reliance on self-help and keeping it totally separated from human involvement has led to a lot of poor customer experiences over the years. And companies that have been able to blend human agent support with AI support they've been achieving remarkable results and delivering great customer experiences at a fraction of the cost of what it would just be exclusively human agent support. And so we are very much on the bandwagon of trying to understand what's happening in the AI space. That's probably the majority of my time is educating myself and trying to share that education with our clients. And then we just have a lot of, we have decades of experience and knowledge and relationships when it comes to the human agent aspect. So that's pretty much the landscape of where we are.
Cool, John. 27 years is a lot, right? When it comes to seeing the industry. What do you think from your last 1 year, has changed drastically when it comes to people accepting technology as something which is not really just going to replace them in terms of human, but, is going to be a co-pilot in this journey? Or do you see that, people have started seeing this as a big threat and they feel that possibly they have an existential issue in this industry serving customers?
Yeah, several questions packed in there. So the first one is the changes over the past year. It's really been the changes over the past 7 months, which is, I think it was November of 2022 when ChatGPT was released to the world. And I've got a good friend on in this LinkedIn space. If anyone's on LinkedIn and does call center stuff, you'll see Tom Laird. He's a prolific poster of content on LinkedIn. He has a podcast, Advice from a Call Center Geek, and he's always been very bearish, very mean to the chatbot players out there. And I remember when ChatGPT came out, and he had a moment where he was publicly stating, hey, this is taking me by surprise. It's taken everyone by surprise to see what technology is capable of doing. And that has woken up interest and curiosity in everybody about what is the capability of this technology and who all is it going to be impacting. And when it comes to, there is a lot of fear, as you mentioned, there is a lot of fear about who is it going to be replacing. And that is honestly a lot of my focus, because our company for 27 years, 100% of our revenue has been derived from helping companies with their human agent support. And so if we get a technology that comes along and dramatically decreases the volume of human agent support and replaces it with something that is a fraction of the cost, then that dramatically changes our business model. And so we pay very, very, very close attention to that. And I have very strong personal opinions on it. And coming from somebody who has no dog in the fight, I personally do believe, based on my understanding and my research, that over time, these computers are going to be better at performing customer support operations than humans. And I know that is controversial, and it's not happening now. That is not the case now. You cannot replace your customer support with a chatbot today. But 5, 10 years from now, I would be very surprised if that is not the case. And the reason for that is, you look at AI and how it was trained to master the game of chess. And then many people thought that was not possible. And then it came the challenge of, can you train AI to master the game of Go? Many people thought that was not possible. Now, no human can beat certain AI programs at chess and Go, even the world's greatest players. And in the call center industry, there's so much data available. And when I have conversations with companies every week that are taking very innovative approaches to capturing this data, from not only the text, converting the voice to text and then putting the text into something like ChatGPT, but also the tone of voice that is coming from the human, and the machine being able to capture that data and react in real time to that data. So you have a machine that is going to start talking a lot more like a human. So this is going to be an interesting conversation about where this is going. But what I see happening right now today, digital support mostly being automated with a human in the loop. Voice support, you have humans that are still the primary drivers, and you have AI just eliminating all of the stuff that humans honestly don't like to do. So in the voice support environment, it's actually improving the lives of agents. And it's actually allowing agents to do what they signed up to do, which is to work with customers and not to do after call work and search around dashboards for information.
Well, absolutely. I think this is something which is going on a very interesting path. And I was actually reading one of your I think LinkedIn article wherein you mentioned that there are 3 approaches that actually companies in the US actually take. One, they spend about $1 million every month for about 200 people business. Then they see, it going to maybe half through a nearshore option, and then maybe going to 1/3 with an offshore option. Now, with about 60 to 70% of the things, getting automated. So Gartner obviously spoke about right now for all the human interactions, it's about 1.5% which is getting automated. And they expect that in next 2 to 3 years, it will be about 10% or 20%. And obviously, debatably, $400 billion industry, right? So what do you think, is the next big thing? Will ChatGPT, be adopted by businesses, or you think that custom and controllable LLMs would kind of be more preferred choice by virtue of data privacy?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And that's something I'm actively trying to understand more, is because there's a lot of LLMs out there, and Facebook just announced, or Meta just announced maybe a day or 2 ago, that their large language model Llama is going to be, the next version is going to be released open source with commercial licensing available. So they previously released Llama, but they did not allow commercial licensing. And so that pretty much restricted it to be used only by researchers and hobbyists. And so we are about to see a proliferation. I know everyone's already tired about hearing the AI talk. Everyone's already tired of it because it's everywhere. But it's just, we have only seen the tip of the iceberg. With Facebook releasing Llama, I mean, it is about to be a proliferation. Like, it's hard. I think we're just getting started. So the biggest fear that I hear among our customers, the big customer support leaders who are more traditional, so they have a lot of ton of humans, is that they have the fear of hallucination. And it's a very pragmatic fear, right? So if you're a customer support leader and you've worked your entire career, often starting in the call center and working your way up the ranks over decades. And if you have an outsourced vendor that you use, and that outsourced vendor has a poor average handle time and is very expensive and all these things, you can replace that outsourced vendor without you as an executive risking your job.
Absolutely.
But if you as an executive pick a technology and you advocate for a technology, and then that technology turns around and says something that's highly inappropriate, perhaps something that is offensive to people, and that gets screenshotted and shared around Twitter, you've lost your job. So that's the biggest fear.
Right. No, I think the fear is going to continue, right? But when you look at the current trends, do you see your customers coming and talking about them having some budgets to experiment, or they already have something which they feel that, this is the best way to go about it? Or you still see that whatever needs to be done on technology front needs to be taken care of by the product? I'm more interested in just how much of dollars I'm going to spend on the man and machine that I'm going to deploy.
I don't know if this is a direct answer to your question, but something that I've been seeing happen is I have a lot of friends in the conversational AI space, and they see that their deal cycle has changed, where there is a ton of interest from companies that are in the exploratory phase. And so they have a hard time even keeping track with all the demos, and having people able to facilitate all the demos and getting everybody in. But then the people who are coming in to evaluate the product are taking a long time to make the decision to purchase. And so what it appears is happening is that there is a lot of directive from up top. I think all companies are hearing in the news that customer support is one of the areas where AI can deliver some of the most value. And so all companies and all customer support departments are under a directive to evaluate this technology. But I think it's, but I'm not really sure how much when it comes to budgeting and things of that nature that it's increasing at this point.
Got it. And in terms of the, business models, are you seeing a shift in terms of whether the businesses are looking at the same traditional FTE model business in terms of identifying what kind of capacity are they going to need, or you see some shift on, say, focus with ensuring that every issue that you resolve for your customer is what you are going to kind of maybe get paid for?
That's a great point. It's very interesting. So in the digital support context, there are a few outsourced vendors who have been able to adopt a cost per resolution pricing model, which is very innovative. And it's very cool for several reasons. One, it provides predictability to the customer who's outsourcing, and B, it puts the burden of efficiency on the outsourced vendor. So the outsourced vendor is highly incentivized. If they want to increase their profits, then they just need to resolve issues faster, which is pretty interesting, which is inverse for a traditional BPO. And we actually have a large client that is in the process of outsourcing, and they have decided to start consolidating all of their digital support with one of these BPOs that is doing cost per resolution pricing for digital support. And so they have, it's one of these big companies that have multiple vendors. They're taking all the digital support away from their traditional vendors, and they're moving it to this cost per resolution model. And you can tell that they are already developing a preference for that type of pricing model when they are talking with voice outsourcing vendors. And, that might be a weird way to phrase it, because pretty much all vendors do both digital and voice. But for vendors that they are considering for voice, they're asking them, hey, can you do cost per resolution? And the traditional BPOs who they don't even know how to answer something like that.
Because I think largely one of the key things that I have seen or I believe is something which is going to be extremely critical in next couple of years' time is a significant amount of upskilling, training, and adoption from the leaderships and middle management, because they have seen, as you rightly mentioned, and they have managed contact center operations for decades the way they have been. But all of a sudden, come COVID, all the models disrupted, everybody goes home and operates from there. And before you even recover from work from home adoption, you are then up with ChatGPT and generative AI, trying to disrupt, or obviously showing promising signs to disrupt the way you operate. Wherein the biggest question is also on program managers. Why do you need program managers when you have AI that can kind of, take quick decisions and do better planning than humans? So do you see that, training and adoption of leaderships across the board is still a big challenge? And or do you see that there are efforts being done so that people kind of adopt to this huge change and learn new technologies?
It all varies by organization. I think it just varies by organization. I've got some friends who are just very forward thinking and are willing to take risks, and they are leading the customer service operations at big companies, and they're very open-minded. It's just very hard to peg it on a single company, because then we have some clients who are saying, we want human agents in an office in the United States with no automation. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, if you want to spend that much money and for that type of experience, then that's fine. We support and encourage, and we'll help facilitate that. But it's hard for me to put to understand if there's been a general change in perspective. What are your thoughts on that? Have you had any?
Oh yeah, so I think what I've seen is while there's a fear, unfortunately, people who are highly experienced and they have not had any exposure to technology as yet, they're still caught off guard, and the change is kind of very, very difficult for them. There are few who are adopting thanks to the online training programs that are now available for you to go pay for it and kind of learn few things. However, I feel that, for you to be even a customer for technology, there's a lot that needs to be done, because one of the things that we have seen, if you remember, 2010, 2011, RPA was introduced, and it was said that by 2015, 2017, it will be all robots who will be doing all the jobs in, back-end operations. And by 2019, we heard people started to say that RPA is dead, right? So, and also one of the most important thing is 60 to 70% of all these digital transformation programs have largely failed by virtue of the skill sets of the leaders that execute or who execute these programs, right? I feel that people are still kind of trying to come to terms, but by virtue of Silicon Valley, by virtue of similar tech startups here in India and other parts of the world, I think they are going to kind of disrupt and challenge these models really, really fast. The enterprise businesses are also kind of now setting up a dedicated teams to focus on CX as product rather than CS as offering. So I think tough times ahead for leaders who do not change, but some signs of fear are visible, and some are still procrastinating is what my observation is so far.
When you're talking about leaders, are you talking about leaders in large companies that have their own customer support operations that they may be left behind, or are you thinking more of like BPO leadership?
See, I think largely the BPO leadership, because the business leaders are anyways forced by their CEOs or their CDOs, right? Now, even the CTOs are now tasked to have a focused AI cell, right? So wherein, like, for example, there's a paints company in India, and they have been able to leverage AI in the best possible ROI that they've been able to get leveraging the technology so far, right? And it's a paints company, right? So everybody else who's into tech business, food tech, e-commerce, they are looking up to a paints company saying that, okay, if they could do it, why wouldn't we do it, right? So I think on the businesses side as well, there's a lot of flux, and people are now at least, if not more, going to conferences and reading more about the technology, so that at
Yeah.
least they can be relevant in conversations that are happening led by technologists largely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in the same boat. Yeah, the companies are going to be big beneficiaries. The biggest beneficiary, this is what I'm excited about. The biggest beneficiary with all of this technological improvement is the customer. The customer, the customer, the customer. The reason everybody on this call and on the earth has horrible customer experiences dealing with customer support is because it is very expensive. It is so expensive. It is surprisingly expensive, and it's very complicated. I know of companies rumored to be spending over $1 billion a month in customer support, a very large company, and they have a reputation for poor customer service. And so this technology, that's what's so amazing about it. You talk about Silicon Valley and them diverting their attention over there, is that you have this technological innovation. It's almost like the invention of the internet, but the primary capability of this technology is communication and it's understanding human language and speaking back in human language. And this is what is so exciting about this time, is that the customer support industry is at the front lines for what generative AI can do. I mean, it's like being a bookseller at the advent of the internet. And there's a lot of people who are, just complaining. It's like, oh, I like going to my bookstore. I like having my whatever, or someone may own a local bookstore and says, hey, I'm going to try to maintain this culture. And people will still want to shop from me because I've got really nice pastries and I've got, a really nice sitting area, give a personalized experience. There is a demand for that. I mean, and those types of bookstores still exist. Yeah. But we are at a time where if you are in this industry, you have the opportunity to be the next Amazon. Like as I mentioned at the beginning of this, right now, and previously, 100% of our revenue has been, as a company, human agent support. And we are pivoting. I'm putting it out there now. We see the writing on the wall. Yeah. We are always going to be helping with human agents. They're always going to be around. But the rate of development of technology, I'm putting my bet on AI for this one.
Got it. Well, this makes sense. Now, in terms of your experience dealing with all the customers that come your way, and you kind of try and find a solution for them or maybe a partner for them, what do you see as the key levers for scaling businesses amidst these uncertain times?
Can you help me understand the question? If I think I understand it correctly, so I'll take a stab at it, and you can correct me if I'm off base. If I were leading a customer support operation myself today, yeah, then I would be focusing heavily on digital support. And I would not be trying to build any technology internally, because there are BPOs today that have 10% of their salaried staff as AI engineers, right? Yeah. And they are focused on trying to accomplish this. And I think any company that tries to build internally is going to have something that's inferior and more expensive than they can get on the market. But so try to divert as much consumer contact towards digital support, automate as much with AI, with a human in the loop, a BPO that specializes in that. And then with voice support, I would just make sure that any internal agents and external agents have some very robust agent assist. And so that as they're talking, there's transcription across the screen, prompting with recommended next things to say, and providing resources, right? You don't want agents clicking around looking for knowledge bases. To the extent there's any back-end tasks, having that automated. And of course, after call work automated. Let agents do what agents sign up to do. And I think I think those are the best practices of what we've been seeing.
Got it. And essentially all of this leading to about 30 to 40% efficiencies as they scale, or maybe as they kind of sail through these changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is what you are seeing? I'm like, what kind of savings you are seeing on card, or have you been able to realize any kind of savings coming in for your businesses through this approach so far? Or you think it's too early to say?
It's too early to say for us, at least. It's a lot of our clients are large enterprise clients, and our relationships have traditionally been focused on helping the people in charge of the human agent support. And so the chatbot teams, the self-service teams, those are typically different departments for the size clients that we operate with. And so at least from our perspective, it's been a bit too early to see the results.
Got it. So obviously too early to talk about ROIs right now, but obviously the direction is that. Sounds good. And in terms of the business mindsets, do you see that there's a focus on any kind of, say, business trying to keep things onshore with obviously costs mounting very, very high, or you see that nearshore options have kind of given them a much of breather, or you think that the larger part still remains offshore with countries like Africa, Philippines, India, so on and so forth? What is the trend that you're seeing now?
The trend I'm seeing is India. And I need to clarify that. I have been so impressed with engineers from India and just friends I've been making from India over the past year. Some of the most innovative companies that I've been talking to in this space are either in India today or have moved from India to the San Francisco area. I've just been remarkably impressed by the engineering talent coming out of India. And some of the technology, as I said, outside legal counsel in this company for 3 years, internally for 1 year. My understanding is over the past decade or so, at one point in the past, there was a larger volume of work being handled out of India. And this, when it comes to human agent outsourcing, and this for inbound customer support in particular. And a lot of this work has migrated to other geographies, such as the Philippines and Colombia and Mexico. And one of the main reasons for that, my understanding, is that many Americans have difficulty with comprehending a strong Indian accent. And some of the technology we see coming about right now is totally just overcoming that barrier. I mean, so you have two companies that are developing technology to make it to where accents over the phone pretty much disappear. Mm-hmm. And Alorica has been a major investor in that. And so we have seen some large enterprise accounts moving work back to India because of that. And then also when it comes to digital support, that's totally, so much efficiency is being driven there. There's a lot of opportunity for digital support in India.
Right. No, I think this is something which even, we have seen in last few months, I would say a couple of quarters, or it actually started post-COVID as well, because there was a lot of resilience that was shown from various tier 2, tier 3 towns in India. We have seen that even the businesses or even the larger companies in India have started moving from, top 4, I would say that 6 biggest cities to other cities. And they've seen, even within India, the businesses are seeing about 10 to 15% of cost arbitrage without compromising on quality. Obviously, leveraging technology is inevitable, right? Because anybody who's talking about plain vanilla support center, they are dead. right? So I think technology, earlier there was a scenario wherein businesses were saying that we are enabled by technology. I think now it's the time when somebody starts the conversation and the conversation with technology, right? And obviously then there is human in the loop. And I'm sure that, while humans will have, every time there will be a new technology, there will be existential challenge, but, technology will also need, right skill sets, wherein humans can write technology. Like, for example, you talked about hallucination, right? LLMs have brought in a lot of deep fake issues. How do you kind of, look at those deep fake scenarios? Tomorrow, it might so happen that somebody kind of pretend to be the company, reaches out to your customer and say that, hey, I'm calling from this, I'm like, how do you know that it is actually the real customer? How do you overcome these kind of scenarios? I think these are things that are going to be, needing a lot of support, or rather a lot of innovation. But guess technology is the way forward, and that's what, because the mandate is such, right? I'm like, with our AI vertical, I've seen that the customers are coming and asking us for a lot of use cases wherein, right from IT to machine models to even the machine models getting automated, right? I'm like, we do a lot of work in, preparing data sets for machine models. And now we are seeing heavy automation there in preparing data sets as well, right? So because when this entire machine model data set preparation started about 4 or 5 years back, 6 years back, it was all manual. Today, 30 to 40% is all automated, right? There is synthetic data being generated for any possible use case, which might not need precision to the core. Same way for the conversational AI space. There's a lot which is happening, right? But all the conversations are going the same way. And in India also, as you rightly mentioned, there are a lot of technology companies here. We ourselves have built a couple of technologies and kind of serving our customers on the customer experience side. It is looking like it's inevitable because there is a huge cost pressure by virtue of balancing the supply demand gap, right? And that's one of the reasons why all the businesses want to see profitability on the cards, whosoever is on the growth path, right? So I think that is one thing which we are seeing every conversation starting and ending with AI, if not beyond.
Yes, and you brought up 2 points I'd like to ask you some questions about, because I'm very curious. So I had a customer support leader at a large organization recently in a conversation with him. We were talking about AI, and his biggest interest is exactly what you were talking about when it comes to AI being used to either impersonate customers or AI being used to impersonate the company reaching out to customers. And he was terrified about that. But he said he's been searching for technological solutions, but he has been unable to find any. Are you aware of any tools that can help customer support leaders?
I think that's a great problem, right? I'm like, people have only started seeing it from the first set of pictures that came of President Obama and Angela Merkel about a few months back, and that was exactly the point when this entire impersonation issue started. There are a lot of trials that are happening. Having said that, do I see any solution which kind of says that this is foolproof? Nothing as yet, but I think the moment people start to find problems, there are people who are already starting to find solution around it. Will still remain a problem for now, because it's extremely important for the businesses to have a connected world. Like, if you remember, we all started talking about omni-channel support and an omni-channel solution. Unfortunately, by virtue of 20 systems in any organization, it's very difficult to become omni-channel. And that's why there are broken systems even today. So to be able to come out of it anytime soon, I feel that in another 2 to 3 months or 6 months time, there should be a good solution for identifying deepfake scenarios, because it will be extremely, extremely critical. And we are in fact seeing some scenarios wherein I'll give you a very simple example. Right now, it's being used for money extortion, right? Wherein somebody is calling and saying that, hey, I'm calling from this company, or I'm calling from the bank. In your account, there's this problem. You would have to kind of initiate this transaction to settle for your fee. Now, as a customer who is in panic state, the first thing that I'll do is take action, right? Because the person is saying that I'm still on call, I'm waiting for you to resolve it, right? So I think these scenarios are kind of, we are starting to see some growth there. But any solution, I feel another 2-3 months, we should start to see some ways to capture deepfake scenarios.
Yes. Well, let me know if you come across anything, if you have any friends who are looking to experiment, because I might have an enterprise client that would want to be somewhat of a test pilot.
Yes,
on something
absolutely,
like that.
absolutely. We'll certainly do that. Let me take a couple of questions from the audience. The cost per resolution model is not new. It has existed earlier as well. What difference it will bring now while introducing digital solutions in contact center?
I can take that question.
Yeah, sure.
And to the extent it's new, so at least traditionally, the types of clients that we work with are very large companies with sometimes, outsourcing between a few hundred to a few thousand agents at a time, and mostly for inbound customer support and with all dedicated agents. And at least in that environment, we have been unfamiliar with cost per resolution. And like I said earlier, I was outside legal counsel for 3 years. I'm internal operations for about a year. So it could be outside of my purview if it has existed previously. What's unique about it today, in my opinion, in the digital support context, is that you can train AI to do so much of the heavy lifting that the agents are really just guiding the AI along and stepping in the circumstances where AI is not, acting at its best. Some things that humans are better at, some things AI is better at. When you blend them together, you actually get a really good result. And in the digital support context, I've actually seen one outsourced vendor who's been able to use shared agents to do work that was traditionally only done by dedicated agents. So shared agents, meaning so one agent will work on a variety of programs for a variety of different clients, whereas dedicated is, they go through weeks of training on one specific program, and then they are dedicated to that one program throughout that's their full-time job. So what's happening now with the cost per resolution model, at least with one BPO I'm aware of, is that they are using shared agents that are trained to use technology. And once they learn to use that technology, then it doesn't matter what program they're on. They can jump onto a brand new program that they've never worked with before, on a company that they've never helped customers with before, and are able to operate at the same level or higher than an internal agent at that company who's been through weeks of training and has been working on that program for months. And so it's the ability to have that level of efficiency and predictability, so that where the outsourced vendor is able to accurately predict the cost per issue resolution, and then is able to just drive remarkable results. Anyway, I don't know if that answered the question, but that's from my perspective, it's extremely different from.
No, absolutely.
And if are you aware? I'm sorry, Kapil, go ahead. Are you aware of other examples of cost per resolution like being used in the past, or?
Oh, absolutely. I think there have been various scenarios in at least in digital space wherein cost per resolution, wherein you knew that the resolution can be done if the person knows the product and processes really well. Have been there. Having said that, what has been done now with technology in terms of cost per resolution is how effectively can you use technology and bring down the cost per resolution significantly down by the right implementation. I'll give you an example wherein, we have worked for one of our customers wherein, obviously the program itself is called Humans in the Loop, wherein, say, for example, you're an e-commerce customer, you come to me and you are actually chatting with a chatbot, right? And you're telling the chatbot that, I've got this problem, and you know very well that you're actually conversing with a chatbot, and you say that, okay, I need to return this particular shirt or a trouser. and it says that, okay, why don't you share the picture with me the way you have received it for whatever the reason, right? You share the picture on the chat, and you know that it's the bot which is kind of doing the conversation with you, but actually in the hindsight there is a human sitting taking decisions whether it is a valid scenario or not. Now actually the bot is having conversation, but the feedback is coming two ways, one from the customer, another one from a resource at the back end, making decisions for the bot, saying that, okay, here's the picture for the shirt. Is it good enough to accept the return? And you say that, yeah, it looks good, it meets all the policies, and it's fine, right? At the same time, you are actually looking at only the complex scenarios being handled by humans in the loop. Otherwise, if you see that, like, for example, some of the customers have said that, okay, if or some of the businesses, sorry, here have said that if my customer's profile is such that he, she, or they have ordered about 20 times from our platform, and it's for the first time that they are coming for a return or refund, on their face value and the confidence score that the bot has built, would say that, okay, go ahead and take this cost, right? Why? Because otherwise the cost of putting humans to take that conversation is going to be sometimes more than the decision that the bot would take otherwise, right? Like, for example, returning might take, say, about $3, but the conversation or chain of conversation or the chain of approvals would take sometimes maybe more. So you identify those scenarios and then decide what data flows or what decision flows would go to the bot. Where would you need humans in the loop? So while you are conversing with the bot, there's human in the loop taking decisions and giving feedback to the bot. And then the customer is saying, okay, thank you so much for the approval. I think these scenarios are there wherein if my cost per resolution early was, say, about $1 for a resolution, would come down to maybe about 30 cents a resolution. So I think that's the kind of approach it would change. Yeah. You're on mute. Just give me a minute. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm next to an airport, so I just muted myself that I couldn't unmute.
I get that,
Yeah.
right? So I think so it's very exciting at this point of time. The next one is what are the potential future trends and developments in AI-driven outsourcing that businesses should be aware of?
What are the future trends that they should be aware of? Right now, the something to be aware. We could take this in several different directions. I mean, one is that I think there's a huge trend on, I think companies are trying to over rely on automation. I'm highly skeptical at this point of full automation without humans in the loop, personally. And perhaps that's because I have never had a good experience myself, other than like one or two occasions as a consumer. And you see a lot of companies that are achieving tremendous cost savings. We saw a company that went from 22 million down to an annual cost to a single BPO on a program, 22 million down to 17 million through the implementation of a chatbot. And so tremendous cost savings. So that's definitely the trend, and especially with AI trying to catch that bandwagon. I personally have a lot of fear about the outcome of the customer experience that results in a lot of these. But so anyways, I don't know if that probably does not directly answer your question. But the main trend we do see that I'm a big fan of is trying to find the best ways to take chatbot technology and incorporating it with human agent supervision and interaction. But what I think is going to be happening, what I'm most excited about happening, the technological advancement, is that these machines are going to become more empathetic. Is that I've met some very impressive companies that are doing a good job of building technology that is going to be sounding more and more like you're talking with a real human. And they're going to become more and more capable of answering questions that are in a way that a human would. And so but I don't know if that answers the question, but.
No, I think few trends that businesses, according to me as well, is largely to see, the success stories, because even till date, the mortality rate of any new implementation in AI space continues to hover around 90-95% plus. So it's only about 3 to 5% use cases that are actually going from lab to a POC use case. We are not still talking about the POC to a live use case, right? So I think there's a lot which is going to happen. Particularly also, it really also depends on which market are you in. If you're in the US market, obviously there is enough appetite for you to kind of play around with the technology. The cost of technology is comparatively still way, way lower than the human costs. Whereas if you come towards Africa, towards the Asia Pacific region, the cost of technology is comparatively at par with the human cost. Sometimes even the human cost is less than leveraging technology. The ROI runs into years. So I think that's where businesses should ideally look at. Like, for example, Uber in the US might use a hell lot of technology, but when they go to, say, a country like Bangladesh, or say to Vietnam, I think they would kind of try and see if the technology cost vis-a-vis the human element cost, which is better, right? So I think that's the approach that the businesses would take before adapting to a new technology. See enough examples, or maybe if you have got enough experimentation appetite, then obviously I'm like, every new technology, hop onto the bandwagon and keep investing your time in evaluating technology, which is not the right idea though, is what I feel, right? Great. There's a question on on LinkedIn, which says that what would be a good guess of AI impacting non-voice or chat back office operations in terms of percentage efficiencies? Do you see anything?
Back office operations. We primarily handle inbound customer support.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes there'll be a small percentage of the agents that are doing some back office work, but I don't have a lot of insight. We don't devote a lot of time in trying to understand those tasks. There is one company I've been very impressed by called Lumini that has been automating tasks through observation, which I didn't know was possible until I did a podcast interview with the guy. But literally the AI is just watching tasks being performed on a screen, and then the AI learns, and if any tasks are performed that don't make sense to the system, then a box pops up, so you explain to the AI why you're taking certain actions, and that appears, I don't know if that's relevant or not, but I've been impressed by it.
Cool. No, I think this makes sense. Pretty interesting. It looks like we will continue to talk maybe on and on, but we'll have to maybe put a pause now. It's been almost a little over 50 minutes since we've been talking. Ideally we planned for 45 minutes plus minus 10 minutes or so. It's been great conversation, with you, John. Thank you so much, everyone else, for joining in. I'll obviously, maybe continue chatting with you post this chat for maybe 5 more minutes to take some more insights, and maybe see what more can be done on the technology scale to kind of deliver better experience for the customers. Because I can tell you the technology has evolved so much. I remember my first experience with a voice bot was with American Airlines, when I was trying to reschedule my flight, which was actually going via Dallas, and I just couldn't do it. It took me about 32 minutes, in the loop, trying to adjust my accent with the way the bot understood. Ended up realizing that I'll have to let it go and maybe book another ticket, right? Because
wow,
so I'm like 32 minutes, I remember, and so that's a bad implementation of technology, right?
yeah, no,
Right.
it's awful. Yeah, and that's something we all have to be very careful with.
Yeah,
Like, it's very tempting because humans are so expensive and technology is so inexpensive, and there's this huge push towards trying to use it for everything. But I mean, I think it's destroying a lot of companies' reputation if you're not
Oh,
careful.
absolutely. I think that's why I said that, it's very important that the businesses understand what's the right use case. So, I think that will be very, very important. I think a great conversation, John, on few various dimensions in terms of what the businesses are thinking, where are they getting stuck? Like we spoke about deep fake, right? And then obviously I'm like, what are the different business models that are evolving in voice, BPO or CX space largely? One thing which I think both of us agree on is AI is here to stay, and there'll be most decisions taken based on what value can they derive out of any relationship with an outsourced partner. Because the industry is huge, it's growing. Uh, Closing comments from your side.
Closing comments. I think we're just in the same boat. I'm very eager to learn more about your company and what you're working on, because I've done a little bit of due diligence before this conversation. It looks very exciting. Everybody on here who's interested in the space, I would love to learn from you as well, from your experiences and what you're doing. Please reach out on LinkedIn. I've got a podcast called CX, AI, and Outsourcing, where it's just a weekly podcast where I'm trying to explore these topics, really just for my own personal education and share value to others. So feel free to follow me there. But thank you all for listening today.
Thank you so much, everyone. John, just stand by and we'll just chat. Thank you. And until we meet for the next coffee chat, guys, keep listening and keep tuning in. Thanks.